The Alzheimer's Association is working to end Alzheimer's and other dementia by providing quality care, global research, risk reduction, and maximizing all the support needed to our residents right here in Harford County. Join us in the next 30 minutes as we meet the new executive director and find out about all their plans moving forward to end this disease. I'm Christy Breslin, and this is Harford MagaScene. Well, we're starting off the show today with the new executive director of the Alzheimer's Association, David Mcshay. David, thanks so much for joining us. We are so excited to have someone like you in this position. We know you're going to do so much for the organization. We want to hear more about your mission, what you do, when you started. But one question that a lot of people have asked, and I'm curious about this as well, is what is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's?
Great question, Christy. Dementia is the umbrella term for an individual's change in memory, thinking, or reason. So Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative brain disease and the most common form of dementia. Two abnormal brain structures called plaques and tangles are really the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease that affects memory, thinking, and behavior. And so while there's currently no drug for Alzheimer's or a way to slow its progression, there are drug and non-drug options that help treat symptoms.
Now, David, congratulations are in order. You just took over as executive director. Very happy to hear that. Couldn't have a better leader. Tell me about the experience and when you began.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Christy. I'm so excited to be here. I started mid-pandemic, so I've been pretty much working exclusively from my office at home, which is a strange way to onboard, but it's really easy for me to get acclimated to this organization because we have incredible staff. We have such dedicated and passionate volunteers here. And we just do great work across the state. So I'm very fortunate to be here and really looking forward to taking this chapter to the next level.
Well, we're thrilled that you're in that position. And David, I also know that, you have a personal connection to this as well. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I lost my grandfather to Alzheimer's disease when I was 10 years old. And it's one of the most lasting memories that I have as a child is the last time I saw him. It was in a long-term care facility, and he was really towards the end of his life. Didn't remember who I was, called me by a different name, which was just a really crushing experience as a child. And so that memory really sticks with me. And the memory of my Boppy is something that really inspires and motivates me every day here at the Alzheimer's Association.
So you really have a passion for this. And I know that we're all so hopeful. We all want to end this disease. Are there any drugs in the pipeline that maybe could take us towards that goal?
Yes, we're very excited about a new drug, aducanumab. It's being developed by Biogen, and it's for the treatment of cognitive and functional decline in early stages of Alzheimer's disease. And it's being reviewed by the FDA currently. So we've really never been this close to approval of a medication for Alzheimer's that could change the progression of the disease, not just treat the symptoms, change the progression. And so that's really exciting to us.
Well, that gives us so much hope because from what I understand, this is the 6th leading cause of death in America, even more than breast cancer and prostate cancer. I mean, those are some sobering statistics. So let's talk about some of the challenges that the families face.
Absolutely. And it's really breast cancer and prostate cancer combined, which is even more shocking. And, we just had some new stats come out, our 2021 Facts and Figures report, and it shows that the burden of providing care for individuals and families are really continuing to grow year after year. Right now, there are more than 6 million Americans living with the disease, and we're expecting that number to balloon and double to over 12.7 million by 2050. And so when you talk about the financial impacts, the total cost of care for Americans age 65 and older with Alzheimer's is $355 billion. And this is the fifth consecutive year that the total payments will surpass $250 billion. It's an increase of $50 billion just over last year alone.
Now, David, in the report, there was some racial disparities in there. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
The report showed that discrimination is cited as being a barrier to accessing care for 50% of Black Americans, 42% of Native Americans, 34% of Asian Americans, and 33% of Hispanic Americans. The top concern for Black caregivers was that providers or staff did not listen to what they were saying because of their race. 41% of Black caregivers and 32% of Hispanic caregivers providing unpaid care say that their race makes it harder for them to get excellent health care.
Well, I mean, I know that you offer these services to everybody. Everybody in Harford County is eligible. I know they just have to reach out. Let's talk about the involvement of the local business community.
So many businesses have employees who are impacted by this disease and may not even know it. So our education programs are an excellent source of information and helps raise awareness about our cause and the depth and breadth of our resources to support families struggling with a diagnosis. So we hold lunch and learn webinars with employees on subjects that range from knowing the 10 signs of Alzheimer's to behaviors of the disease and caregiving tips. And another way to partner with us is through sponsorship of our Memory Ball, Dancing Stars, which I know you're familiar with, Christy.
Love it.
The longest day, which is our do-it-yourself fundraising events, and our Walk to End Alzheimer's, which I should put a plug in for our Harford CISA Walk, which is taking place on Saturday, October 2nd in the fall. Each of these annual fundraising events really gets participants involved in raising awareness and funds that ultimately go to providing support services in the community.
And I can say firsthand, the events are a lot of fun, and what better cause?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what it's all about, raising money towards a cure and having fun while we're doing it, Christy.
Now, David, let me ask you, any families in Harford County that are affected or maybe could use some of your the quality care that you provide with the research and the assistance, how do we get in touch with you?
Well, we want anyone and everyone concerned about dementia to reach out to the Alzheimer's Association. We really want our organization to be top of mind whenever there's a diagnosis of dementia that's given. I definitely want to point folks to our 24/7 helpline, 1-800-272-3900. It provides information, crisis support, and registration for care and support services. I mean, you could literally call at 3 a.m. in the morning if your parent with dementia is experiencing challenges, and we'll be there for you.
Well, we are lucky to have this, especially right in our backyard. And there's a lot to unpack here. So coming up next, we're going to find more about the statistics of Alzheimer's right here in Harford County and what we can do to combat it. Stay with us. Eileen Rosenthal is the program director for the Alzheimer's Association, and she's here with us today to tell us about what exactly that means and the things that she's doing in their quest to end this disease. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Christy. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know that we have a lot to unpack here. And as the program director, you work directly with the families that are affected by dementia. So tell us a little bit about that experience and maybe the point of view of the caregiver as well.
And so it's a really challenging illness. It's on average about 10 years. And so many families want nothing more than to be able to manage the care of their loved one at home forever or as long as possible. So our goal is to help them succeed and to do that. And, one of the first things we focus on is education, because there's nothing instinctive about this disease. And so often caregivers, very well-intended caregivers, will think that they need to answer mom accurately. So if mom asks for dad, who died 10 years ago, they feel they have an obligation to remind her that dad died 10 years ago. But we have a lot of wonderful education programs that basically say, it's okay. You can tell a therapeutic fib because you're just going to upset mom. You want to keep her calm. You want to keep her stable. And so we do a lot of caregiver education, because so often everything a caregiver thinks is right is usually wrong. And so we find that if we can help caregivers better understand and be prepared and know what to expect, they're in a better place to respond and can often avoid a crisis situation.
Now, I know that you do a lot of family care consultations, and I guess that's kind of what you were alluding to there. So Tell us about this program, because I know it's very, very valuable.
Well, a care consultation is an opportunity to sit down with a social worker one-on-one. And right now, that is something that we do virtually. But once we get on the other side of COVID, we'll resume doing these in person or by phone or virtually, whatever works for the family. But it's an opportunity, it's a clinical intervention with clinical staff that is designed to address some of the more complex issues that they're dealing with. Often we are contacted by families soon after they've received a diagnosis, and they just want to know, what do I do next? What should I be thinking about? How do I plan for this? And so we sit down, we go through, we help them do some short-term planning, we ask them a lot of questions, we assess their needs, we identify the issues, and we help them put together a plan, and we connect them with resources. And we will say to them, one of the things you should consider is one of our education programs.
Well, I know that there's a lot of support groups. So what support groups are good for dementia? And then we also want to talk about the early stage social engagement programs and how they are helping the caregivers and the patients as well.
Okay, well, let's start with support groups. So we have over 35 support groups in our chapter area. We also have some specialty groups. We have some for people in the very early stages who attend with their care partner. And then we have, of course, regular groups. We have a frontotemporal dementia group, which is a very specialized kind of dementia. And then we have a Korean group. We have an LGBTQ group. We partner with Chase Brexton. They facilitate that. And so we have many different groups, many different time spots. They're all virtual right now. So you asked also about our early stage programs. And these are designed for people who've been recently diagnosed, because we find that it's a really frightening time for people. They've just gotten this terrible diagnosis and they don't know what to do next. And so the early stage is really more about social engagement, and it underscores the importance of just continuing to live your life. But again, it underscores the value of being with other people and continuing to enjoy social relationships.
Well, Eileen, thank you so much. It sounds like there is something for everybody. And for us to get an idea on how we can get involved with these groups, how can we get in touch with you?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked that question, because the one thing I want people to know is about our helpline, which is a 24/7 number, 800-272-3900.
Okay, Eileen, thank you so very much.
You are welcome. Thank you, Christy.
So coming up next, we're going to hear more about Advocacy Week and what you can do to help move things along. Stay with us. Eric Colchemira is the Director of Government Affairs, and he's here to tell us all about his mission with the Alzheimer's Association and what we can do as a community to get involved. Hi, Eric.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being with us today. And just tell me, what exactly does it mean, the Director of Government Affairs? How does that play into the association?
Sure. So with the Alzheimer's Association, our mission is to end Alzheimer's. We've not yet found Alzheimer's first survivor, but we're working to build awareness about how individuals can manage the disease and how we can advance all that we're doing across multiple areas. So as Government Affairs Director, I connect with elected officials, primarily at the state level, across Maryland, to inform them about our public policy priorities, advance legislation, and collaborate with them on our programmatic efforts.
Well, Eric, I know that you have been a very busy man, especially this week, Virtual Maryland Advocacy Week. I know that you're talking about some key legislative issues. So kind of clue us in, give us an idea of what those key issues are.
Sure, and thanks so much for asking. So we have 3 core bills that we are pushing forward, and we were excited to talk with Harford County elected officials about them. As part of our Advocacy Week, Delegate Johnson, Delegate Shalega, Delegate Riley, all fantastic Harford County elected officials were part of the conversation on 3 bills. One of them, HB 119, was about building Alzheimer's awareness through the health department's work. The second, HB 141, is about dementia training for home care providers. And the last one, which actually has a hearing this Thursday and we're busy getting ready for, is HB 416 about updating assisted living facility regulations.
Well, those are some serious issues out there. And, especially with awareness, we need to make people more aware exactly what this disease is. And those bills could make a huge difference. So what could we do as residents to help support those bills, to get them pushed through?
So you can text ALZ.MD to 52886. You can search for our Alzheimer's Maryland advocacy page on Facebook and join that. And through those 2 vehicles, you can stay engaged, you can stay aware, and you can stay active in talking with elected officials like some of the individuals I mentioned, like people like Senator Jennings, all fantastic Harford County officials who are strongly supportive of our work.
Eric, what would you say are the biggest challenges right now that we're facing in legislative issues for Alzheimer's?
I think we're always looking to build collective support about why Alzheimer's and dementia is important and why legislation needs to be passed on this specific disease. We're grateful to have so many fantastic legislative partners. And as we move through the legislative session, I'm committed, and I know they're committed to enacting these changes into law.
Well, Eric, you said it, and from what I've taken away from this interview, knowledge is power. Wouldn't you agree?
Without a doubt.
All right, Eric, thank you so much, working so hard for us to get some of these bills pushed through. And another big part of the association is fundraising efforts. What are they doing to provide money to support the association? How can we get involved? And when are these events happening? All those answers straight ahead. Nicole Gorski is the Constituent Events Manager for the Alzheimer's Association, and she's here today to talk to us about all of their upcoming events. Nicole, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I asked you earlier before we started this interview, what exactly is a Constituent Events Manager? What does that mean?
So constituent events are those events like walks or any other third-party event, bowling events and tennis events and golf tournaments that we would work with the participants to ensure that they have the best experience possible. So that's our job.
Well, I know that this is a wonderful cause. It affects so many people, and I have to give you guys so much credit because the fundraising events that you have are just fantastic. They're so much fun, and it's for such a good cause. So it's great to be out there having a good time to benefit something so worthy. So let's talk about the longest day, the memory ball. I love the memory ball. I've been involved in that before. Talk about the upcoming events.
So I'll start off with Memory Ball. This year, Memory Ball will be a little different because of the ongoing need for social distancing. So this year's event is going to be an online event, and it's going to be sort of a retrospective of all of the years past of our dancers, because the theme of our Memory Ball is Memory Ball Dancing Stars. So we will be showing clips of previous dancers and their partners and some interviews, and it should be just a really unique event. And you can tune in, I'm going to confirm the date, Saturday, May 1st at 7 p.m. And you can find all the information you need at alzmemoryball.com.
Well, I know it's going to be a great time. I know that firsthand. So that's one that we're really looking forward to. And then David talked to me about the longest day. And this to me is just so unique and so out of the box. And I actually got a chance to see David perform. So talk about the different things that you can do for this event.
And we're looking forward to having David perform as part of the longest day. So the longest day, we like to bill it as our DIY fundraiser. Walks and runs are not what everyone loves to do for their fundraising opportunities. And some people like to just use their own creativity. So we focus our celebration on June 20th, the longest day. And we really speak to bringing shining our light on Alzheimer's disease and dementia. But the longest day really occurs year round, and we invite people to do what they love to honor who they love. I think one of my favorite fundraisers from last year was someone hosted a Build a World Without Alzheimer's and Dementia out of Lego.
Oh, wow.
So they encouraged people to create their world without Alzheimer's out of Lego and submit their entries for a nominal entry fee. And they did a virtual showcase of all of the incredible Lego creations that were made. So it's the only limit to the longest day is your own creativity and inspiration.
Oh, we love that. And then you did mention the walk, the Harford
Yes.
Cecil Walk. Give us some of the details on that one.
Yes, we are so excited to be back in person this year. However, we will be offering a lot of virtual opportunities for people who aren't quite yet comfortable in being together. But we will be at Ripken Stadium on October 2nd at 9 a.m. And we're going to gather together and celebrate all that we've accomplished in moving one step closer to the end of Alzheimer's.
Well, Nicole, these events are great. They're amazing. They're a lot of fun. How do we sign up? How do we get involved?
So to join in any of these events, you can find information about all of them on our website at alz.org/Maryland. If you want to go straight and sign up for the walk, which we'd love you to do, you can go to alz.org/Maryland/walk. We have 6 walks in our footprint. So if October 2nd doesn't work for you, please join us on another day. And then for the Memory Ball, as I said, if you go to alzmemoryball.com, I just have to confirm that website, you can join in on May 1st with us and watch some really, really exciting dancing.
Well, Nicole, it sounds like a great opportunity. I'd like to do the longest day. Finding something that I'm good at, that could be a challenge, but you know what? It's all for a great cause. So thank you so much for being out there, for being the face of the Association for Harford County, and we look forward to seeing you out and about.
Thank you so much.
Now, as Nicole has said, there's 3 wonderful fundraising events that you can participate in. If you have a talent you'd like to showcase, you can participate in the longest day, you can participate in the Memory Ball, or even the walk for Harford and Cecil County. All the information, all the sign-up information, you can volunteer, you can donate, visit alz.org. I'm now joined by Pam and Nathan South. They're here to share with us their story and their experience with the Alzheimer's Association. Pam and Nathan, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Now, I would like to know a little bit more about Nathan and exactly how did you guys get involved with the association?
Well, we moved to Maryland a couple of years ago and really didn't know anyone outside of our immediate family, and decided that it would be a great opportunity to get plugged into some local resources just to get some support.
Now, Nathan, what do you think about the association? How have they treated you? What do you think of the support they've given?
They took very good care of me.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. And it's such a great organization, such great people. Now, if you don't mind, Pam, Nathan, let me ask you, when did you first realize that Nathan was showing symptoms of Alzheimer's? What are the symptoms and what did you do when you first realized this could be a problem?
Well, to be honest, when the things that I started noticing, I didn't even associate them with memory or Alzheimer's or anything. Generally, what we saw was he was having some challenges with what I'd call the regular household Mr. Fix-It type chores that he had been doing all along. And all of a sudden, they were more challenging for him to complete them. Difficulty following the instructions on how to complete certain tasks. Repeating himself, asking the same questions over and over again. agreeing to do some things, that then didn't happen. And some job frustrations where typically that had never been behavior that he had exhibited, but was getting very frustrated. And then quite frankly, just deciding one day he wasn't going to do accounting anymore and he was going to go into retail. So I brought these things up to his neurologist at the time that he was seeing for his epilepsy. And he suggested, given his family history, that we might want to have him evaluated.
Now, Nathan, do you remember when you were first diagnosed with Alzheimer's?
I never had Alzheimer. I had dementia.
Okay.
It's not. It's a different version of Alzheimer's.
Right.
Well, you seem to be doing great now. And let me ask you, you've got a great caregiver here. How has Pam been doing taking care of you?
She wants to know how I've been doing taking care of you.
Well, she does the driving, and I get in a passenger seat.
Well, that's okay. Don't we all want a driver? I would see that as a benefit.
Well, and he was 51 when we first started noticing these signs. He's now 64. And, the end of the story for us wasn't an Alzheimer's diagnosis. It actually was a different diagnosis that was contributing to his dementia. So we did not get that diagnosis until last year. And we're relieved to know at last what it is, but it was a long journey of thinking you have one condition only to find out there's really something else going on. And so I appreciate your comment about him doing well, because that was actually the hint that something else was happening with him, because he was not following what you might consider to be the descriptions of the different stages. When they would talk about, what I should be expecting to see, that wasn't happening. And what was happening was he was changing his gait, balance issues, things of that, some difficulties with his swallowing and shuffling, not picking up his feet the same. And that led us to continue to say, is there something else happening here?
Well, not only do you have a lot on your plate, you've been caring for Nathan, and you're just a wonderful person, Nathan. You're just so happy and just so peppy. I love seeing that. You've become advocates as well. How have you done that? What kind of steps have you taken?
Accident. It's way outside of our comfort zone, but I would say by accident almost. It's difficult to be involved with them and not get on fire, if you will, for what this journey looks like and just the experience of it. And we have been participating in a number of their programs and see the benefit. So we've had an opportunity that when we've been asked to speak about, how do we make it through this journey, stay resilient, particularly with COVID having shown up on the doorstep, how do we stay resilient? What are the strategies that we're using to, quite frankly, keep our sanity through the process, to keep our joy through the process? And so we take the opportunity to talk about that. So that's kind of how it's happened. And so we were, we get asked to talk and we show up and talk.
Well, you guys are great role models. You're great advocates. The association's very lucky to have you. I thank you both for taking the time to talk to me today. And I know it takes a lot of time and attention to do this, and being an advocate is just an extra step, and so gracious of you to do that. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, as you have seen today, the Alzheimer's Association is leading the way in their quest to end this disease. And you've also noticed not only does it take a toll on the person affected, but it takes a major toll on the caregivers as well. If you would like more information how you can donate, volunteer, or get involved with any of their events, you can always visit them at alz.org. I'm Christy Breslin. See you next month on Harford MagaScene.